Welcome to A Man's Perspective with Andres Garcia. Today I'm going to be interviewing a good friend of mine, Rudy. Rudy's life has been so inspirational to me. His rags to riches type of story is just I just say it's inspirational is an understatement. When I first met Rudy, he came from very humble beginnings, and now to say he's successful is it's an understatement. Financially, personally, physically. My brother Rudy's turned into just God inspiration. That's the only word I can think of. So, Rudy, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Good, brother. Good, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for taking this time. I know it's not easy. All right, brother. We're gonna have just a general conversation. I'm gonna ask some questions, and hopefully we'll gauge a good conversation because of those questions. All right. So, first question: can you share some key lessons you've learned about self-improvement and personal development along your life journey?
Well, I I've learned that self-improvement really it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody you might go through similar experiences as everybody else, but it's what you're actually taking from it and how you're putting it to use.
Yeah. Yeah.
I grew up dirt poor, and
Yeah.
so did a lot of people. And
Yeah. Yeah. Myself included. Yeah.
like, man, we were lucky to have a piece of rock to play with,
Yeah.
and I guess what that instilled in me is appreciate the things that you do have. You
Wow.
may not always have the nicest things, but when you have a good family, good siblings, uh, when you appreciate the small things in life, that sort of drives you to want more.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so key because a lot of times, because I have the saying, and that's where you and your family has been so inspirational to me because I always tell people that it's together we become successful.
Yes.
And you and your family have just the way you guys have come together and the things that you guys have now, it's awesome. It's just awesome. I have no other word for it, but just awesome.
Mm.
So yeah, I appreciate the what you just said right now. The the next question was what role did self-confidence play in your journey and how did you build it over time? More importantly, how did you build it? Or how does one go about building self-confidence?
Well, I didn't always have the nicest things.
Yeah, yeah,
So I had to wear the hand-me-downs from my older brother. My younger brother had to wear my hand-me-downs. So
yeah.
it's if you're always focused on the things that are negatives or considered negatives about yourself, then that's all your mind's always going to be in that.
Oh
So
wow, yeah.
I always looked at it like, well, this is what I have to work with, and you know, and people would make fun of me or people would make comments. Sometimes they led to fights, uh,
Yeah.
or sometimes they just led to embarrassment.
Yeah.
And I'd wonder why I would let somebody else decide how happy I was going to be.
Oh wow, that
And,
is key.
and yeah, it's easy to fall into that trap of like letting somebody else dictate how you're going to feel about yourself.
Yeah.
So when I was growing up, whenever I went through something like that, whether somebody was making fun of me or somebody's making a comment, I always I had an inner conversation with myself. So I
Wow.
talked to myself and I'd ask myself, is that comment really worth fighting this kid, or is it really worth me feeling what I feel? And the answer was always no.
Yeah, yeah.
So I started to everything that I did have, I started to sort of remind myself that I was lucky to have that. And if I wanted more, I'd have to work hard for it.
Wow. Where did you get that from? Because that doesn't come naturally. That's like that's a very high level life lesson. For you to know that early on is tremendous. Like where did you get that from? Did you read it somewhere? Did you someone tell it to you? How did you learn that?
I guess, well, I grew up in South Central LA. And the big thing that always gets thrown around in that neighborhood is, oh, we're victims of our circumstances. And I never believed that
Wow.
because you see people and you see the decisions they make.
Yeah.
Their circumstances didn't make them make those decisions. Their it's the mindset.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
did. It's that they believe that their circumstances, I'm doing this because of my circumstances, but that's not true. I never thought that was true. I always looked at it and said, no, you had to have had a conversation with yourself and weighed the options, and you made the decision. Your circumstances didn't. So I always looked at everything that I was doing, and I never placed blame on anybody else. You have to be accountable for your actions. Otherwise, you're never going to be there. There's no growth if you can't look at yourself and say that the things you're doing or the things you're going to do are because you believe in yourself or because you're putting in the effort. If it's all about circumstances, then why do anything?
Wow. Dude, that is such a tremendous life lesson. Dude, and I personally think that that's a life lesson that most people don't know,
Mm-hmm.
especially some of the areas that I work in.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they don't know that lesson at all. They do let a lot of people, a lot of men right now are led by their emotions, are led by how they feel, are not led by accountability. They're not led by goals. They're led by, you know, what's happening in front of me. And that's tremendous that you had that so early on in life. Wow.
I was never, I would see what was going on around me, and I never, you see the groups,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Without calling out anybody
Yeah, yeah,
specifically,
yeah.
but you see the groups, and you always go, oh, that group's trouble.
Yeah.
And what do they all have in common? They all have the same mindset. They all believe the same thing. Everybody's against us. We have to take care of ourselves. And they don't care what they're doing because they're doing it together. And they think because they've come to believe that these are our circumstances, these are the cards we were dealt, and that's how we have to play the game.
Wow.
So they continue to do that. And I'd look at that and say, well, I don't want to end up in jail.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I didn't want to be poor. When I was 5 years old, I remember coming out of school, kindergarten at that time, and my brother, my older brother, 3 years older than me.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
3 years older than me. He would come to pick me up from school, and we would go to the market. At the time, it was Superior, and we would stay there from about 3:30, the time we got out of school, until about 7:30 before closing at 8. And we would help people load their groceries into their vehicle for
Wow. So
spare
you were
change.
working at
Since 5.
wow.
Yeah.
That's
That
wow.
was a better alternative than being in a gang. If you're hungry, I don't want to steal from somebody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the best way, it's more rewarding to work for something to get what you want.
How can we teach that to the youth of today? How can we do that? Because everyone goes after the quick buck.
Mm.
Everyone goes after the instant satisfaction.
Yeah.
How would if you were like the ruler of the earth, how or the ruler of LA, what would you do as Rudy to teach the little kids that, the quick fix, the quick buck is not the way to go? What would you say to them? How would you help them grow in that area?
I think people ignore the little voice in their head.
Oh yeah,
They
yeah,
ignore their conscience. They ignore
right.
that voice that tells them you can do this or you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, yeah,
And they don't have enough of an inner conversation. If they did, then there's more. You can give yourself the best advice in the world, right? Everybody can tell you that what you're doing is either the right thing or the wrong thing, but at the end of the day, the decision's yours.
yeah,
So why not have, if you're going to make the decision, why not have a conversation with yourself? Because that's probably the voice you should be listening to.
yeah. So some people would call that intuition,
Yeah.
um, but I think you're right. I think it's that inner voice. I think we all have that inner voice.
Hmm.
I know brain scans that show that inner voice is coming from the frontal cortex. Some people, we used to think or I'm sorry, science used to think that it was the conscience, but now we know it's not.
Hmm.
Now it's just called the inner voice.
Yeah.
Um, and some call it intuition, but yeah, I think you're right. To trust your intuition, that's important. You
So,
never told me this, Rudy. You never
well,
told me about your life.
it,
I mean, I know
yeah.
general overall, how you would talk about it, but you never told me these specific details.
Well, you're hungry. And
Yeah,
and and even though my mom was working hard and we had government assistance, it doesn't cover it when you have, you know, six, 7 kids
Yeah.
and they're all hungry. So it's either we steal or we work for it. And I never wanted to end up in jail.
Wow.
So we worked for it. So ever since I was 5, I've done everything from helping people load groceries onto their cars. And some interactions are great, and some interactions were a slap in the face.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're getting chased out by security guards, or it was handing out flyers for $20, spending all day handing out flyers, or valet parking, or uh, working at a flower shop. Ever since I was 5, anytime I wanted something and it cost money, then I was working for it. I wasn't waiting for somebody to give it to me. Whatever I've wanted, I've always thought that if I want it, then I have to work for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to do what you have to do to get the things you want in life.
Wow, Rudy, that's tremendous, brother. Damn, thank you for sharing that part of your life. Wow. Let's see. Do you have any specific financial goals in mind when you started your journey? And how did you track your progress towards achieving it? That's pretty key because a lot of times we do things
Yeah.
without really um, putting down how if we're getting where we want to be. How did you do that?
I, I I can't tell you what article it was or who wrote it, but I remember seeing something in a paper, and it was a newspaper, and they were talking about the transition from poverty to wealth, and I was still in high school when I read
Wow.
that, and in the article it said you how do you break generational poverty?
Mhm.
How do you become the one in your family to move from being poor to we're okay now? And that article listed a number. It said, when you make 100K a year, you've broken the generational poverty cycle. That you have now set your family up for future success for all the generations to come. And
Wow.
that number stuck in my head, 100K. So I always had it in my head that if I was going to be the one to do it, that's the number I needed to achieve, 100K a year. I had to earn that. So every job I ever went to, from that point on, I made sure that I was never late. I never missed a shift. Um, and I did everything that was asked of me. I did the things that weren't asked of me, and I just worked hard. So whether I was earning $9 an hour, $11 an hour, $12 an hour, whatever it was, I worked hard because I knew that that's the only way I'm gonna get from, you know, $25,000 a year
Yeah,
to
yeah.
100,000. And it took it every single time I moved on from one job to another, I got closer and closer because it was always a step up and a
Yeah.
step up and a step up. And with every step up, there's more work that comes with it. So you have to sort of like buckle down and make sure you're staying focused on that path.
Well, that's interesting because a lot of times, like right now, where I work, a lot of guys are, oh, I don't want to promote because all the additional responsibilities and stuff.
Mhm.
So you just accept those responsibilities. It's just like,
I look for it.
oh, wow, wow, really?
Mhm.
That's tremendous. And now, man, with your stock options, you make way more than that. So,
It's funny because I've run into people just like that in work where they're complaining about their pay, but they don't do the little things.
oh, wow.
And they do the bare minimum enough to just have a job. And that's
Yeah.
fine. That's your mindset. That's okay. But just keep it on that side. Because I definitely don't want to hear somebody saying, I don't get paid enough when I know you don't work half as hard as I
Wow.
do.
Have you like how have you ever found any God, this is such a difficult question because I don't want to insult anybody, but have, how do people or do you tell people like, hey, keep it over there, don't
A
bring it
hundred
to me?
percent.
Oh,
Yes.
really?
Yes. Yes. Because the same way when you're having a bad day and you run into somebody with a positive attitude, how quick does that change your
Oh,
day?
yeah,
It's
tremendous, yeah.
it's right away. You all of a sudden feel comfort. You feel comfort. You feel happy. You feel like, okay, maybe this day's not so bad. It's the same when you run into somebody at work where you're busting your butt and you're doing everything that's being asked of you and more. You know, you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off, making sure everything's getting done.
Yeah.
And you're not complaining. You're doing the work. And you hear somebody say, "Oh man, I haven't taken a break in an hour." This
Oh
and
yeah.
it's like that all of a sudden puts you in a mood where you're like, I'm over here doing all of this and you're not doing anything.
Do you ever find it difficult to keep that level of discipline, that level of motivation up?
No,
Really?
no. That's the easy part. The state because my motivation isn't dependent on somebody else.
I
It's
mean,
dependent on me. So and how I feel. So it only gets difficult if I start to lose patience and belief in myself. And it happens from time to time. Nobody can stay that focused or that consistent always. You're
yeah,
always
yeah,
going to have points where you need to remind yourself what got you there and what you're trying to accomplish.
yeah, yeah. Wow, dude. You gotta write a book, Rudy. You know, I know I've told you this before to put your thoughts down on paper because I'm telling you, every time I talk to you, I'm just like, I'm so uplifted by the way you think. So you really gotta write a book, Rudy. I know I've told you this countless times, but you gotta do it. You really gotta do it. Um, what do you want your legacy to be, and how do you plan to ensure that that your success
That's a different podcast.
yeah, that's for another day, people.
That's another
That's for another
day.
day. That's not
That's
today.
the after hours podcast.
That's for sorry. Your success has a lasting impact.
To be honest with you, I would just like my legacy to be somebody who definitely made mistakes, and somebody who wasn't always accountable, but is working hard every day to be accountable, and to improve. You know, nobody's perfect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nobody's
Nobody is. Yeah,
perfect. And I just, if the worst thing that ever gets said about me is, yeah, he spent too much time working, then that's not so
yeah.
bad.
Excuse me. Yeah, I feel the same way. Like a lot of times, like I tell myself, like I either go do something, will be productive, or sit at home picking my nose. Like
Yeah,
that gets me. Like I feel physically like bad when I think
yeah.
about that. Like I'd rather go to work.
The same. It's if I have a day off, I just feel like it's day wasted.
Yeah.
I will sit around and go, well, what now?
Yeah.
What now? And it's not because I don't enjoy doing things. I do. You know,
Yeah.
I love going out and watching a movie. I love spending time with my dog. I love going on drives.
What kind of dog do you have?
I have a golden doodle. A
Oh
golden
wow.
doodle. Beautiful, beautiful golden doodle.
How old is your dog?
She's a year and a few months old, and
Oh.
she's got all the energy in the world. So I love spending my energy on her.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. A golden doodle. This looks
yeah.
like pretty intelligent.
They're extremely intelligent. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Um, what color? What color is her?
It's like a caramel brown.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
Oh.
she's amazing, and it's things like that I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Right. I there's I enjoy a drink. I'll go out to a bar every now and then
Yeah.
and have a drink, but do I enjoy being in social settings? Not always.
Yeah.
Not always. I feel like it's at a place for me when there's too many people around.
Yeah.
I just feel like, well, I could be doing something else.
Yeah. Okay. The thought that always comes to my mind is like, man, I could be making money right now. I'm losing money. I'm losing money. Even though I'm not really successful in a lot of things that I do, but I just have that mindset where I don't know how to like just relax. Even when I go on vacation and stuff,
Mm.
like I'm always just thinking. Well, like I said, I just have to figure out a way. Like if I had your mindset, I'd probably be tremendously successful by now. Um, I just have to figure out a way to make my ideas work, but that's my problem.
Mm.
How to make them work.
Well, I'm gonna take my first vacation ever, like actually leave the continent and go somewhere for Christmas.
Really?
Yeah, yeah,
Where you gonna go?
Hawaii.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Oh, get
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, and that's See, that I'm excited for.
Yeah,
That
just
I'm
because it's
excited
new.
for.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's great. It's like,
Um,
you know, that's the best way to spend Christmas.
yeah,
So I'll be
absolutely.
going with my dog and my ex-girlfriend,
Yeah.
myself. We're gonna take a vacation and we're gonna go out there and it should be great, man.
It will be. It will be. Hawaii is beautiful, bro.
Yeah,
The times I've been out there, I haven't been out there a lot, but I've been out there a couple of times, and man, it's just beautiful out there.
yeah,
I was so surprised at how clear the water is. Like I went out far, and it was just you could see your feet. The water's like waist level, and I could still see my feet.
jeez.
I was just amazed that you could see the fish swimming. It was just so beautiful, dude. It's more beautiful in person than the pictures you see.
I could I bet. I think I've mentioned this to you before off the podcast, but I
Yeah.
really want to see the Keck Observatory,
Oh
just
wow,
because
yeah.
it's like, I mean, what they say that's the best view of the galaxy
Yeah, yeah, the
anywhere.
largest telescope, I
Like
believe. Yeah.
not even with the telescope, just at night, no lights. That is the best view of the sky
Yeah, no, like
anywhere
100%.
in the world.
Yeah.
And that part, that's the part that I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah,
Being able to
dude.
see that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's tremendous. Dang, brother. Well, I know you're a busy man, so I don't want to take too much of your time, but man, thank you so much for being here, Rudy.
my pleasure.
I appreciate you. I appreciate the time that you spent with me, and I appreciate especially the wisdom that you've shared with me. Dude, I'm telling you, I can't tell you enough with how much I've grown just from listening to you because you're so inspirational, and how fast you've gotten to be so successful is tremendous. I always hear, I'm starting to kind of digress, but I always hear how 40 years to be successful. Look at Warren Buffett, it
Yeah,
took him 90 years or 60 years, I'm
yeah.
sorry, to be as successful as he is. You did it so quick. It's like less than a decade. You went from here to woof, way up here.
I have a long way to go.
Huh? Yeah. So, but I'm telling you, Rudy, write a book, do something, memoir, something to life lessons, just something, because I mean, you've been truly inspirational to me. So,
It's mutual.
thank you,
It's a
brother.
mutual
Thank
feeling.
you. Thank you. Well, thank you for watching A Man's Perspective. I hope that you've grown, that you've learned something from this. And as usual, we want to create a space for men to ask questions that they may be uncomfortable asking other men. So leave something in the comments, and we'll do our best, myself or the guests that I have on, to answer any questions that you may have. So thank you. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you and have a wonderful day.